Hey guys, I'm Kelsey and this is my channel, Literati Reads, and today we are doing my March wrap-up. I am going to start with the book I like the least and progress into the book that I like the most, because then we start with like the negative stuff and we get to end on a positive note. First up, we have A Working Theory of Love by Scott Hutchins. This is about a man in his 30s. He is inputting his late father's very extensive journals into a computer program because his company is trying to create an AI. The reason I didn't like this book a ton was because I was looking for something sci-fi. I grabbed this book because I was like, I really want some sci-fi. And then I started reading it, and I'm not a huge fan of contemporaries about middle-aged men, straight men. The writing was beautiful, you can tell, because I tabbed a ton. And the story itself wasn't bad. Like I said, he and his company are trying to beat the Turing test, and it wasn't a bad story, it was just not what I wanted at the time. I didn't end up rating this because I just couldn't think how I wanted to rate it, because the writing was beautiful. The story was interesting, but something just didn't click for me. Next up we have City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. This is the third book in the Mortal Instruments series. This is the first book I read this month, and I liked this book better than City of Bones and City of Ashes. I was glad that they finally wrapped up the plot twist that was at the end of the first book. It wasn't necessary in my opinion, and it was so angsted over, even though it was unnecessary. I enjoyed the fact that it was set in Alicante, I don't know how to pronounce it. I rated this one, I think, a 4.25 because it was better than the last one, but not amazing. Avalon by Mindy Arnett. It's about this ragtag team of kids who work for this mob boss, and they steal spaceships and things. I liked the characters. I felt that they were interesting. As with most YA, there was a forced romance that I just couldn't get on board with. The other issue I know I had another issue with this one. World building. This book series, this duology, does not do enough world building for me. I think it could have been such an interesting universe, but Mindy Arnett didn't go into everything that she could have, and I was always flipping the pages hoping that we would get more information on the different places, and we never did, and it was kind of disappointing for me. The good things about this book was the fact that it was very heavily focused on familial and friend relationships, and I always appreciate that, especially in YA. This friendship and family relationship is very well done, the dynamic is good and interesting, and I really enjoyed it. I gave this one, I believe, a 3.5 out of 5. I read Polaris, the second book in the duology, also by Mindy Arnett. This one, the relationship was a little bit better, but I still wish that she would have just left it out. The family and friend dynamic was even better. Again, there was not enough world building, and I was just so disappointed. I was hoping with the second book she would kind of kick up on that, but there was a little bit more, but still not enough for me. I gave this one, I believe, a 4 out of 5. That is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Sorry, I forgot her name. And this is an adult thriller, which is one of my favorite genres. This is about a girl named Rachel, a woman named Rachel, and she rides the train every day into London from some suburb. I don't know which one, I can't remember. And her ex-husband lives on the train route, and she can like see, and one of his neighbors, she watches them from the train window every day. And then suddenly one day, the woman, who is her ex-husband's neighbor, disappears. And it's all about her trying to figure out who kidnapped this woman. And I liked it, but I have never been so viscerally discomforted by reading a book as I was when I read this book. I don't like books about alcoholics. I will say Paula Hawkins did an amazing job of creating a unreliable narrator that was truly unreliable. I mean, there was no way to tell if she was right or wrong. Trigger warning in this book for alcoholism, abuse. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 or a 4.5 out of 5, I can't remember. Next up we have The Woman in the Walls by Amy Lukovics, and this is the first horror book I have ever read, I believe. This is about a young girl who lives with her cousin, her aunt, and her father in an old Victorian house, which, I mean, what a stereotypical start to a story. And suddenly her aunt goes missing one day, and her cousin starts hearing voices coming from the walls, and this is all about her trying to figure out what the voices in the walls are. I thought this book was written really atmospherically. It was beautifully written. It was so easy to read. I could have read this in one sitting, but I didn't because I started it at 10 o'clock at night. So I made myself put it down, and then I finished it the next day right early in the morning. It ended up really blowing my mind. Most of the action doesn't happen until like the last 50 pages, I think. And this is what, like a 230 page book or something. But it wasn't boring up until the big explosive ending. I enjoyed the book through and through. I believe I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars too. Trigger warnings on this book for suicide, self-harm, emotional abuse / neglect, blood and gore. Definitely blood and gore. Finally, we have Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. This is my favorite book of all time, and there's no way I can explain it. I've tried about 10 times to explain this story. So I'm just going to read you the little blurb on the back. It's very short. It says, a postmodern visionary who is also a master of styles and genres, David Mitchell combines flat-out adventure, a Nabokovian love of puzzles, a keen eye for character, and a taste for mind-bending philosophical and scientific speculation in the tradition of Umberto Eco and Philip K. Dick. The result is brilliantly original fiction that reveals how disparate people connect, how fates intertwine, and how souls drift across time like clouds across the sky. This is often described as a nesting doll story. There's, I think, 6 different narratives, and they're all wrapped up by other stories, I guess, is the best way I can explain it. And his prose is stunning. It's possibly some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. And I don't think there's ever been a way for me to describe why I love this book so much. But I will tell you my favorite story in this book is the story of Robert Frobisher. He is a musician, and he becomes an amanuensis for a very famous composer. And he begins composing his own sextet. It's told in letters to his lover, Rufus Sixsmith. It demands a lot of focus and a lot of your attention. You can't blink or you miss something. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. Thanks for suicide, period typical, racism, and I know there's more stuff, but I just can't even think about it. So that is everything I read in March. It was a great reading month for me. I read 7 books, which is awesome. Like this video if you thought it was good. Subscribe if you want to help my channel grow. Comment down below, and if you've read any of these books, if you want to read any of these books, or tell me what books you read in March. I'd love to hear. I'd love to have a conversation about books down in the comments. I love talking to you guys. And until next time, I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.